I am pleased to be joined for the first time on the channel with me, Matt Moderno, the host of the Fear the Podcast, the Maryland podcast for 24/7. Matt's going to be doing previews and recaps with us all season long with Sleepers Media, and hopefully that means we're talking more Maryland hoops than ever before. This is the season opener for the Terps on Monday night, taking on Coppin State. Before we get into any specifics on this game, I want to just talk a little more generally because we did a season kickoff meeting last week with our entire team, and God bless Matt Moderno. He dialed in from the arena in a Maryland exhibition game. And while the meeting unfolded, we realized Maryland was in a dogfight of an exhibition game. So, just what are vibes coming into this season with Buzz Williams, with all the changes that have happened? Are you excited? Are you a little more iffy on all of this?
I would say all 5,000 people that were in the arena at the end of that game were just puckered at the same time. Like it was definitely kind of a rough, auspicious start to the season here, but playing a slightly lesser on paper Baltimore team here for this one. So hopefully a little bit better vibes after a win just to start the real calendar year here.
So, what were some of the biggest issues in the exhibition struggle?
Yeah, I sent this picture in the group chat, but literally, for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, there's a picture going around of like half the Maryland backcourt in boots on scooters. So that's just not a particularly great way to start the year here with your three best guards coming in, your veterans, all walking wounded here. But they started three freshman guards, and that was basically the only guards available on the entire team. Former Buzz Williams player and Maryland player Seth Allen has actually been practicing with them, so like that's how shorthanded they are. And Pharrell Payne, their center, is the only one that looked like a Big Ten caliber player for most of that game. Darius Adams, big time freshman, comes in, shoots 3 of 13, I think, but got 19 points and got to the line a ton. So he got it done at the very least. But I think there were some jitters on his part to get out of the way too.
40 minutes from him, I believe,
40
too,
minutes,
right?
yeah.
Like, which again, it's an exhibition. If guys are unavailable and you're just trying to get through it, that's one thing. But also somewhat unheard of to see anybody play a full 40 minutes in an exhibition game. So, yeah, I'll be watching his minutes very closely in this game. It probably just comes down to what other guards are available. What do you know on that? Who is supposed to be available for the official game one?
Yeah, so definitely not going to be Miles Rice. I think if you're in a boot on crutches, that's a bad sign. That's probably a slightly longer thing here. Not a guard, but Solomon Washington, same thing, out for a while in a boot. Uh, Kansas transfer Diggy Coit looks like he should be back. They didn't actually say what the injury is. Buzz is doing this like cloak and dagger HIPAA privacy thing, so we can't talk about the nature of any of the injuries. So don't really know for sure, but he looked like he was walking around just fine. Isaiah Watts got hit in their secret scrimmage against WVU in the head, so I think they were just being cautious with him. So I would expect both of those guys to be back, but if they held him for one more game to get ready for Georgetown on Friday, it wouldn't totally shock me either.
Yeah, Georgetown team that suddenly has a lot of hype after
Yeah.
taking down Kentucky. So I think a real test will be coming very quickly from Maryland. This game should not be a real test, regardless of who's available, even if it is the same group from the exhibition game and everybody's out. I think we expect Maryland to at least avoid a nuclear disaster sized upset on opening night. But if Coit and, oh, geez, you just said him.
Watts. Yeah.
Watts, yeah. If Coit and Watts are back, you have a legitimate backcourt,
Mhm.
right? It'll feel a lot different. I want to ask you this because we did some season preview content on Maryland, and the idea of this roster at full strength with Buzz, to me, is a lot higher floor than I think has been discussed
Mhm.
by pundits for this team. I liked Passmore. Obviously, without him, it's totally
Sure.
another big loss, right? But it's not going to be the team that I had sort of mentally mapped them to be if you are down Passmore and Rice and
Mhm.
potentially two to three other important guys like Washington. But if they are at full strength, even if Rice is back, how do you sort of see this backcourt hierarchy playing out if it goes well for Maryland?
I thought this is a team that could get this like as high as sixth in the Big Ten if everything went right and all those guys were healthy and we get bounce backs from people like Rice and Coit and that nature. But ninth seemed like a kind of a safe hedge for not all of those things happening. I think they wanted Rice to come in here and be the highest usage guy. But all Buzz has talked about offseason is how good David Diggy Coit has looked. Like when he gets an opportunity to mention someone, it's Coit. He brought Coit to Big Ten Media Day. Like that was kind of a guy I thought would be the microwave guy off the bench, but they seem pretty high on what he's done. Haven't heard much about Watts, so it could just be more sort of like keeping our cards close to our vest here, but they do seem high on Coit, so I would expect him to get pretty high usage, whether it's off the bench or in the starting lineup.
And that is sort of the scout on Buzz. I'm sure you're coming to
Yeah.
terms with this too, with the new head coach, right? He doesn't like to unveil anything that's going on with his team, whether it's injuries, game plans, nothing. And then all of a sudden you show up to the game and his team's top five in rebounding on both ends and a really, really tough out. And then after the game, he's still giving you nothing. So if the product on the court results in wins, I think Maryland fans will end up like really adopting this and gravitating toward it and loving it. Coming into the season with so many injured guys, I'm sure it's like a jarring adjustment
Mhm.
from what was going on last year. I like the Coit angle, and I want to talk him for just a moment because even if Rice was healthy, I agree with you. He shouldn't play in this game, probably won't for a while. Rice, to me, the one hang up I had with this idea of Maryland overachieving a little bit this year is that I don't trust Miles Rice to fulfill the promise of the quote unquote Wade Taylor role.
Yeah.
I just think in the 2 seasons I've watched Miles Rice, that's not what he's done best. If anything, there was an issue at Indiana last year where he was overly passive on a team that needed him to be more aggressive. Say what you want about the system and if it is smart or not, but Buzz Williams wants one guard to be as aggressive scoring wise as anyone in the country in any guard position in the sport. And I think that maps better with how Coit is
Yeah.
wired, which might be why Buzz likes him so much early. Do you think I'm onto something there?
Yeah, absolutely. A good friend of mine actually coached Diggy Coit in prep school, and he was the third guard on that team and didn't play a whole lot, and I did not expect much for him. And then he goes to JUCO and is one of the best scorers in the country. Goes to Northern Illinois, becomes one of the best scorers in the country. So I think if you're looking for someone that has that mindset, the wired to score mentality, it's definitely Coit. Now, like Rice, I think makes sense. They want guards that will drive and get into the paint and put pressure on people, maybe build up, collapse the defense and throw some lobs to Payne or Washington or kick out to Saunders. So I think he can do more of the drive and kick kind of stuff that you'll see for them. They love high ball screens, so he can do that sort of stuff. But him going, 4 of 17 in a game and getting to the free throw line 11 times, that's actually probably more like Darius Adams here too. That's basically what he did in this first game. So if Adams ends up being like a third starter in the backcourt here, that wouldn't surprise me too much either.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all if at the end of the season Adams is either the leading shots guy on this team and or the leading scorer. Now I don't know how efficient it will be, but much like Wade Taylor before him, you don't really need efficiency from whoever's playing that role
Yeah,
if the
just get it
team's
on the
going to be
rim.
as elite offensive rebounding wise as we know Pharrell Payne can be in this league. So I'm excited to see it. Adams is an interesting guy, was a UConn commit, and when he committed to UConn, I remember we did some coverage of that commitment. And at first glance, we kind of speculated, this is a nice prospect, but he's not going to play much.
Mm.
And I think Adams sort of realized that and just waited it out and waited for the best situation where he would have a huge need. And I don't know what that says. I don't want to make any drawing conclusions about how Adams is wired, but he certainly sought out a situation that will lead to the greatest offensive individual opportunity possible. It might be exactly what Maryland needs. It also might be something that's a little out of his scope of
Mhm.
what his talent can do. What are your, I guess, outlooks for Adams this year? Do you think he can be the first option on like a bubble team in the Big Ten?
We did a preseason thing on our podcast specifically about Maryland basketball, and it was like this is a second year guy. Like next year, if he was one of the top scorers in the Big Ten, it wouldn't shock me. I think
Yeah.
anything you get this year is really sort of like a house money sort of situation here. I thought we'd see more of the Rice Watts backcourt coming over from Washington State where they played so well together, and that would be really like locked into the bulk of the minutes this year. But it's not really trending that direction. So he might just have to be ready a little sooner rather than later. He's got to figure the shot out. Like people talk about him like he's some great shooter, and this is a guy that was like sub 30% from three, in high school last year. Didn't look great doing it in this first exhibition game. So he's more of a drive, like a downhill driver, scorer, slasher type. So if there's no efficiency, at some point maybe Buzz has to kind of shift away from that. I don't know if he's like physically developed enough to survive driving to the hoop in the Big Ten for 30 games, after 30 games of the season, but I guess we'll have to find out.
Yeah, it's one of the bigger questions I think I have in the entire conference is just what is Adams' role? How good is he right away? Because he's a great prospect. I'm totally with you. I don't think he spends more than 2 years in college. Year two, he should be a monster if he's back in Maryland or
Mhm.
playing college anywhere. But for me, also a guy that, yeah, very clearly wants to bet on himself. I think views himself as a one and done,
There's a
which
lot of
might
talk
not.
about that, Greg, around him, like circles that like agencies that are involved there. It's like, well, can he get out in 1 year? So that makes me a little nervous too.
Yeah, it's scary. You never like that. Like you want guys to show up and unpack their bags a little bit,
Yeah.
but I don't know. The same thing. Like I said, this could be exactly what the Maryland team needs, and it's kind of almost like Jeremiah Fears at Oklahoma last year.
Mhm.
Like on paper, it's like okay, he's making a selfish decision, leaving Illinois where he would have waited, and it's like no, he is a lottery pick and he's betting on himself. There's
Mhm.
definitely an outcome where Darius Adams does that, and it leads to good things for Maryland this year. But I'll have my eyes on that immediately in this game. We've spent 12 minutes on this and we haven't even mentioned the opponent. Let's quickly talk Coppin State. Coppin State last season was 6-24 in the MEAC, the 361st team in the country per Ken Palm, just legitimately one of the very worst college basketball teams you can find. Now, it's a totally new roster. They bring back two
Two.
players that
Yeah.
played minutes at all last year. It would be Cameron Sparrow on the wing, and then Khalil Horton off the bench. Those guys combined to play 40 total minutes a game last year. Everybody else transferred out. They have a bunch of JUCO guys on the roster, a bunch of Division two guys on the roster. So, is there anything that Maryland fans should be keeping an eye on from Coppin State, or any reason to believe they could pose a threat here?
No, just simply put, I mean, you mentioned the 6 wins last year. They actually tripled their win total from the year before. So it's a team trending up very slowly in the right direction here. They're 8-51 under head coach Larry Stewart. He comes in as an alum to kind of save the program after the turmoil under previous head coach Juan Dixon, which I don't know if anyone doesn't know about that scandal. Google that one later. That's an all-time weird situation. So I think they're just like trying to have good dudes that won't get in trouble. Cam Sparrow is a great kid and I think should be a better player, but he's like a 6'4" bigger guard that's not super efficient either. So I don't think he'll pose any problem for this Maryland team. They might struggle a little bit with like quicker, smaller guards if it's only these freshmen playing. So they've got a kid Hassan Perkins that comes in from University of Maryland Eastern Shore. He's like this quick, dynamic guy. He only averaged 5 points a game last year, but also had like five 20-point games. So he can go off, and it would just be kind of Maryland fans' luck that this is the game where he goes for 20 or something like that.
Yeah, welcome to the Buzz Williams era. The kid from Maryland Eastern Shore has 25 right now. We're only up nine. Like that would be strange, and I don't expect it to happen. But if it does happen, my advice would be don't panic, Maryland fans. I don't think there's much that can happen in this game, barring like, oh my God, we're tied in the second half. That should scare you. You still have so many guys out of the lineup. It's hard to take any real conclusions from this if there's going to be that many guys unavailable. To that point, let me ask you one final thing before we give our predictions here. What is one thing, as someone that covers this Maryland team, what is one thing you hope happens in this game?
I just want to see somebody make some shots from the perimeter at some point here. That they didn't take a ton or take a ton of bad ones in this first exhibition against UMBC, but they were 5 of 15. Just if Pharrell Payne's going to be as good as it looked like Pharrell Payne is going to be, there just has to be a little bit of space for him to operate. His front court mate Elijah Saunders looked really passive, and I'm expecting him to have a big year as one of the like the better stretch big candidates on the roster here. So just somebody make a little room for Pharrell Payne to just do his thing.
I love that. I think it's a good Adams game for me.
Okay,
Just
like that.
like have a splashy moment early
Yeah.
where whether it's lead the team in scoring or even just, make go 6 for 9 from the floor or something.
Mhm.
Something give you real belief that he could carry this team. Let's go to predictions. Ken Palm has the projected score for this game, Maryland 84-55, a 29-point line. That feels low to me. I would think Maryland can win this by 30, maybe 40 points. What's your expectation?
I would take the under on that. I don't know if it'll even be quite that many, just because of how few guys they have. I would expect him to maybe try to give a few of these guys that are like Colin Metcalf barely played as their backup center. I think they'll want to get a few more minutes for them. They don't want to have to play Pharrell Payne 35 minutes to beat Coppin State. So if they scale back a little bit, play freshman Alex Austin a little bit more, maybe there's an opportunity here for Coppin State to keep this like under 30, but I think barely under 30 would be my guess.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take if the line is Maryland minus 29, give me Maryland. I think
Okay.
this is in the 30s and probably a feel good win to start the season. That would be nice. All right. Thank you, Matt, very much. Great debut on the channel. We have plenty more previews and recaps for you in store this season. We'll cover every single Maryland game along with every game for all the other best teams in the country. Make sure you subscribe to Sleepers Media to see it all.